Okay. Man, this team's not in a great place right now. A couple of players are in a pretty good place. This team is not in a great place right now. All right, Knicks lose 104-96. I said at halftime, for anybody here who was on the Zoom, that I'd be shocked if the Hornets did not score 60 points after the half, and I was off by 2. They scored 58 points after the half. You knew the offense was going to come around. You knew that the terrible three-point shooting for Charlotte was not going to continue. And yeah, the offense came around. Nobody from Charlotte had a particularly great game, which is what makes this loss pretty frustrating. Although, when your alleged, big air quote energy there, when your alleged two best players go 5 for 24 from the field, 1 of 7 from behind the arc, and for good measure, Barrett didn't get to the line, so 1 for 4 from the free throw line. That's not exactly a great sign. Let me start at the end with the decisions by Thibodeau. So obviously after the last game where the bench guys kind of ran out of gas, it seemed like he was trying to toe the line here, leave in a couple bench guys, bring in a couple starters. My instinct when each move happened, the only move that I really, in the moment, I was surprised. When Rose came out, I was a little surprised, but then you kind of have to put Kemba back in there. Can't take quickly out. Rose, Kemba quickly, a little small. And that said, I might have thought about it. That's in retrospect, that's probably the way you had to go. I didn't mind Randall coming back in. I mean, look, I'm at this point, I've planted my flag on Julius Randle Hill, and I guess I'm going to go down with the ship. He played terribly tonight. He was bad. Played a good first quarter. Thought his first quarter, he was trying to get other people involved. He was trying to, let's see how the offense runs through Kemba. And then from that point forward, he's like, all right, time to get mine. And, there were a few nice passes. I'm sure his defense was, I honestly don't even know. But just couldn't make a shot. And when you're an all-star and an all-NBA player, an MVP candidate, got to make shots. That's why you get all those designations. He didn't make any shots, and he took some bad ones. That said, couldn't even hate on them putting him back in that much. The only move that I really questioned at the time as it was happening was putting Barrett back in the game. RJ Barrett's going to be fine. RJ Barrett's going to be a really good player. He was the Knicks' best player probably through the first, whatever it was, 7 or so games, 8 games, 7, 8 games, whatever it was. He's in a terrible place right now. He's in a terrible way on both ends of the court, putting up just some not great shots. Nothing's falling. More nothing's falling than putting up bad shots. And on defense, I swear, I think he might have been the Knicks' worst defender tonight. I would have to really go back and watch. Obi had some not lovely moments on D, but Obi makes up for them because he also has some great moments on D where he makes splash plays, and he's just all over the place. He's an Energizer bunny, and if he makes a mistake, he's going to more than make up for it with how unnerving of a presence he is on that end of the court. RJ's he's just not good on defense right now. He's jumping, he's out of position, he's not hanging with guys. Although obviously the defensive non-play of the game was Julius not being able to stop Miles Bridges tonight, who absolutely ate Julius Randle's lunch. Miles Bridges was, I don't know who your Miles Bridges comp is. Is he more Julius? Is he more RJ in your eyes? Whatever it is, he ate both of those guys' lunch today. He was the Hornets' best player. This is New York, so of course I'm going to start with the bad. There was some good. Emmanuel quickly only ended up 3 of 7 from the field, or 3 of 8 from the field, 3 of 7 from deep. I don't care. They would have gotten blown out in that game had it not been for Emmanuel quickly. He was once again the most impactful player on the floor. He won't get any love from anybody because he never gets any love from anybody. But Alec Burks, also astounding game, wonderful game. That's why you don't bury Alec Burks at the end of the bench if he starts off slowly. Guy's a good player. Guy comes up big, has ice water in his veins. Doesn't matter. First quarter, fourth quarter, close game, blowout, whatever. Alec Burks is always going to be consistent. He's a good player. He was incredibly helpful for the Knicks. Made a lot of good plays. Missed that little 10-footer, which obviously came back to bite him in the ass. And then Derrick Rose. I mean, what more can you say about Derrick Rose? He may find himself first in the league in plus-minus after tonight. And, boy, is that not a misprint at all. He is – I mean, in case there's any question about whether he's getting in the Hall of Fame, this last act of his career is solidifying that. But, this right now – and I obviously didn't talk about Kemba's first quarter. Wonderful first quarter from Kemba. Came out. That's the Kemba of old for the most part, but where do you go from there? And it's like they've kind of tried to half-ass what they were doing in the first quarter anytime the starters were in the rest of the game. Obviously, they lost the game in the beginning of the third quarter when they couldn't figure out what the fuck they wanted to do on offense. And that's what really this team is right now. If you're going to sum up this team in a sentence, it's a team that, aside from the bench players, who obviously are playing with a cohesion and a verve and an energy that, you just don't see very often amongst any team in the NBA. The starters for the Knicks they're trying to figure out who the hell they are. They don't really know at the moment, and they have fits and starts, and like Julius Randle will have a fourth quarter against Philly, and Kemba Walker will have a first quarter against his old team, and they'll have moments where they have a play or a couple of plays and they look coherent, but they don't know what they're doing right now. They don't know whose team it is. They don't know who the offense should go through right now. They are searching. And it is not pretty. And if you are searching and you don't have a coherent plan and you don't know what you want to do, NBA teams, doesn't matter who you play, and the Hornets are a decent team, NBA teams will take advantage of that. And the Hornets took full advantage in the third quarter because they're a decent team and they're home, good crowd, half Knicks fans, but the Hornets fans that were there were loud. So good for them. And then the worst part of it is, here's the thing. This team – and then I'll get to the Super Chats after this. This team was not a great offensive team last year. They ranked 24th in the NBA in that category for a reason. And they went through periods where they could not throw the ball in the ocean from the beach. But they knew who they were. And granted, what they were was a team that dumped the ball into Julius Randle and then made plays off of it, and that was a limited team. But they knew who they were, and they knew how to get back to that when they needed to. And then once they got Derrick Rose, they were a team that knew what it was in the starters and they knew what it was on the bench. And that worked for them. And the reason why it worked for them was no matter whether the ball was going in the hoop or not going in the hoop, they stuck to the plan and they played their ass off on defense at all times. And this game was lost, obviously, in the third quarter when, until the subs came in, the Knicks just let their offensive futility, as has been the case all year long with the starters, infect what they're doing on the defensive end. And we saw, by the way, in the first quarter, yes, that's what I hate. I hope we could finally put to bed this very stupid conversation about, is it the Knicks scheme? Is it Thibodeau's scheme? It's not the scheme. If it was the scheme, then the bench players wouldn't collectively have the best defensive rating, what would be the best defensive rating, and perform like they meant it on defense. And that's why the Hornets only had whatever they had, 18 points in the first quarter. The scheme could work if you execute it properly and you give it the commensurate amount of effort. When their offense starts going bad, they stop giving it the commensurate amount of effort. And that's what bites them in the ass. And they do not have the talent to overcome that. I think that's all I want to say about this game. I really don't have anything else to say other than that. Emmanuel Quickly is amazing. Nice dunk by Obi Toppin, although things didn't go so well after it. Yeah. Okay, let's get to the Super Chat. Drew P. We have no paint presence, so they just guard the three. So we're gonna blame this one on the fact that we don't. You know what? Look. I thought one of the nicest things they did in the first quarter is they were making a real effort to get the ball to Mitchell Robinson down low, and I thought for the most part it was effective. Mitchell Robinson's really tall. He can jump really high. His hands are okay. Would you like them to have a better center? Yeah, of course. I'd love for them to have a better center. That'd be great, but, there aren't that many, Joel Embiid's and Jonas Valanciunas's, and I mean, it's a dying breed, really. There's not that many of these guys out there left. So you make do with a lob threat. And Mitch hasn't caught many lobs recently because I don't think Mitch is right physically. And that showed tonight. Joe Dugan, we're obviously going to lose Obi and IQ doing this. How are we going to lose Obi and IQ doing what? Playing starters minutes and playing subs minutes? Obvious numbers eyes, they're better than Kemba and JR, yet buried on the bench. Tom Thibodeau prioritizing egos over winning. I was told by my producer not to call anyone stupid today, so I'm not going to do that. All I will say is that Julius Randle, this is his 8th year in the NBA. He's gotten better every single year. Last season, he was an all-NBA player. He was an MVP candidate, and he was an all-star. Kemba Walker has been an all-star 4 times. He came out in the first quarter and played better in that quarter than pretty much any Knick has played all season. Emmanuel Quickley and Obi Toppin have played as well as you can play, coming in and looking really good against opposing teams' backups. And they do what they do very well. I think Emmanuel Quickley has a case long-term to be a guy who probably starts some games for you. I'm not sure at what position. But the notion that you are going to lose 2 second-year players because you're not starting them over guys that have been in MVP conversations throughout their career is something that, again, going to choose my words carefully here, I will politely disagree with. Tom Thibodeau does not give 2 shits about egos. Tom Thibodeau cares about one thing and one thing only, and that's winning basketball games. He cares not for anybody's feelings. And I think he's been accused of that in the past by one Karl Anthony Towns. He's just trying to win. And when you are a head coach, you cannot always just look at the most recent evidence. It is on you to look at the body of evidence. And that body of evidence goes back longer than a couple weeks. Daniel Chang, either we run offense through Randall, RJ, or Kemba. They all need the ball in their hands to thrive. 2 of them need to adjust. Who is it? Yeah, I think that's a very fair comment. I mean, so it's weird because the evidence with Kemba is that he cannot adjust very well to being the second or third guy, and we have 2 years of evidence in Boston to show that. With Randall, we actually have seen him be not the focus before he came to the Knicks, but even then he was accused of being a bit of a black hole. RJ, again, a guy that's always had the ball in his hands. It's a fair comment. I don't know if they can adjust. I don't know what will it look like a month or 2 months or 3 months from now. I hope it looks better. I'm certainly not willing to pull the plug on whether those players can play together after 13 games. But I agree, if you're gonna pinpoint one main concern for the Knicks right now, I do think that would be number one. Anthony Sixto, we see what is done to slow Randall, but am I seeing anything they do to take away anything else? Early this season, we saw a nice pick and roll dribble handoff game between Fournier and Randall that has just gone away. Yeah, I mean, I don't know, maybe it was the first few games of the season, and those games came against a Celtic team that I don't know if we should draw any conclusions from that game. And then they played the Magic twice. There were some other moments for sure. There was definitely some dribble handoff stuff with Fournier. I would like them to go back to that. What I think we're seeing, again, my very rudimentary set of eyes on this is the problem with the fact that their offense essentially was Julius Randle last year. So if you nullify Julius Randle, which Julius Randle is either being nullified or is nullifying himself right now, or both, because he's not making shots at the moment. Where does that leave you? Doesn't leave you anyplace good. I mean, that's why I thought he played well in the first quarter, because I thought he was drawing attention and he was making the right plays. I thought in the last game, I went back and watched the tape. Anytime he drew a double, he made the right pass. He's trying to figure it out. I don't know what else he's supposed to do. I don't know if he's a good enough player to figure it out. I hope he is. But I do think, you do have to give him a little bit more leeway because of what he did last year. I think that buys you a lot of currency. CT Pittman. What's going on, CTP? CT, I hope you had a good time despite the loss at the arena tonight. It was still a good game being here at the stadium. Glad to hear it. We brought plenty of energy. At one point, Knicks fans were screaming, "Let's go Knicks," over the Hornets fans. Yeah, we heard it from the TV. Definitely heard it from the TV. So glad you were there to be a member of that crowd and support us. Knicks fans travel well, that's for sure. Jonathan Cheverez. Who would you bench in the starting lineup? And what rooks do you want to see? The energy of the starting unit versus the bench is night and day. Yeah. Oh man. I mean, this is not going to be a popular answer, but I'd like the team to. I just like them to play better. The thing is, like, we've seen moments from R.J. Barrett this year in which he looked awesome. We've seen moments from Julius Randle this year in which he's looked awesome. We saw a moment, finally, from Kemba Walker tonight in which he looked awesome. And we even saw some moments from Evan Fournier way back when, the first game of the season, where he looked awesome. All of these guys have looked awesome at times. They have not looked awesome together. So when the question comes, who do I want to bench? It's like, I don't really know the answer to that question. Like the guy, like Derrick Rose clearly likes coming off the bench. I like Derrick Rose coming off the bench. That's a great role for him. He doesn't really mesh well with Julius. I don't love them two together. I think Kemba and Julius have better odds of meshing well together. I thought they meshed well together again in the first quarter. I think maybe that's something to build on. I don't think you bench anyone right now. As far as the rookie, I don't like. There's this fascination that like Quentin Grimes and Deuce McBride are the answers to what ails this team, and I'm sorry, I cannot get there yet. I think they're both going to be good players. I'm really excited about Grimes, but I think they got the right 10 guys. I just have to play better together. Ed Paula. Tibbs takes way too long to make a sub. Team, again, came out lethargic and played the same 9 straight minutes. That's just unacceptable. Yeah, it's probably a fair comment. Yeah, it's probably a fair comment. The problem is, who's his first sub usually? His first sub usually is Rose, and Kemba was having the best game of anybody on the floor. But look, I defend Tibbs a lot. He probably late to pull the trigger, and I'm sure he would admit that at this point, hindsight being what it is. Yeah, that's fair. Forgotten NYC. I absolutely love the decision to bring Julius back in, completely backfiring on Tibbs. I get you kind of had to put him in, but that juice stretch was bad. I don't know why you loved it because it contributed to them losing the game. Yes, the juice stretch was bad. Jew got worse as the game went on. This organization has invested $100 and whatever it is, $40 million in Julius Randle. I think you got to work through the bumps with him. I know he doesn't have the currency of some of the league's stars, but I am willing to give him more time. I'm probably in the minority on that one, but I am willing to give him more time, mostly because whatever version of this team is exceeding or at least meeting expectations this year, Julius Randle is playing good basketball for that team, and they need to get him right. And maybe part of getting him right will be him figuring out, like, on his own, like, shit, this isn't working, I need to adjust. At the same time, I think Julius Randle thinks of himself as one of the best players in the NBA. So I don't know. I don't know. Is this going to get worse before it gets better? I can't answer that question. I certainly don't blame anybody for being frustrated with Julius Randle. I'm frustrated with Julius Randle. But I also know what he did last year, and I know what he meant to the franchise, and I'm not willing to toss that away quite yet. Matt G. Not going to pretend like I coach better than Tibbs, but as a fan, my heart sank when the starters came back in during the fourth. Yeah, I mean, I think all of ours did to a certain extent. I mean, look, he left a couple of them out there. I mean, the one that kills you is Kemba for Rose, because Rose, from game 1 to game whatever it is, 13 now, Derrick Rose has been the best player on the team, pretty clearly. So, you want your best player on the floor when you close the game. He was certainly generating offense, with those couple of little runners. Yeah, no, that's fair. More than fair. What else we got here? Andrew, shoot me a text if I tried to scroll up to see any of the super chats that I may have missed who got in here early. If you got any of those, let me know. Or if you had I'm getting to some more, so I guess we'll wait on that. Taxi driver, nice. What is that called again? Avatar. Yeah. The starters have been horrible for more than 5 games. Yeah, it's been 7 maybe. Panic time? ? Also, FYI, this Knicks starting lineup has the worst defensive rating in NBA history. Yes, I know. I quoted the stat myself today in my newsletter. So I am aware of that. And not only does it have the worst defensive rating, what would be the worst defensive rating in NBA history, if you look at it just since the first 5 games, so the last 7 or 8 games now. Sorry, since the first 6, so the last 8 games, 7 games. It is even worse. I'm not sure. It'll actually probably go down tonight because they did defend well for a quarter. No, but they've been abysmal. They're letting their offense. It's been either letting their bad offense infect their defense, or when they have really had it rolling in the beginning of the year, they sometimes just relaxed on defense because they had a big lead. That's not good either. It's been bad. Is it time to panic? No, it's not. It's not time to panic for me. Because look, they're 7-6. They have 3 games coming up at home, all winnable games. 2 of them they absolutely should win. This Pacer game might be a little dicey. And it does take time. I know Tibbs said what he said after the last game. I do think it takes a little bit of time. I think they're finding themselves. It's a frustrating process. It shouldn't. You wish it didn't take this long. But I'm not panicking yet. I'm not panicking yet. We'll get Ryan Huang. There was a apparently super chat before we logged on. Thank you, Andrew. Starting to petition to have NBA games be 24-minute halves, so we don't have to watch the starters shit the bed in the third quarter anymore. Yeah, no, that's very fair. This is very frustrating. I think you mean something like not 24-minute half, some other minute half, something where anything not to watch the starters shit the bed. Yeah, I'm here for it. Haitian Ferg, the starting unit has no identity. Yes, completely agree. The third and fourth quarter was a microcosm of the season so far. Completely agree. Tape is out on Julius. Every team plays him like Atlanta. Completely agree. The difference, I think, here's the thing that's frustrating is Julius hit a lot of tough shots last year. He had a lot of tough shots, and he walked into a lot of long twos and hit them like it was nothing. And he's not doing that anymore, which I guess is as good a time as any to go back to no, only halves because then there's no third quarter anymore. Get it? LOL. I get it. Okay, thank you. Sorry, Ryan. I'm a little slow. A little slow in general. It's also late. So for the question from the regular chat, how long is your leash on Randall? How many games before you start to become concerned? I mean, I'm concerned now because I think what everybody is thinking and what I'm trying not to think is last season kind of came out of nowhere. And it's not like we haven't seen this before. We saw it a few years ago with Victor Oladipo. Victor Oladipo was a middling player for what was it, 4 years or 5 years? I forget if he had been in Orlando for 3 or 4. And then he went to Indiana, and he turned into an MVP candidate and an All-NBA player. And they pushed Cleveland in the first round, really good for 7-game series. He was awesome that year. I 3 lifetimes ago, I covered the Pacers that year for a different blog, and I watched a lot of those games. And it was like that dude was. I mean, I'm just going to say he was better that year than Randall was last year. And then he came back the following season, and he wasn't quite the same player. His shooting percentages dipped, and then he got hurt. And now he's obviously never been the same again. But like he started off that next season, the first 35, 40 games, whatever it was, he was not the same guy. And there haven't been a ton of examples in NBA history of guys who have been, kind of middling but clearly talented players for 4, 5, 6 years, whatever it is, and then they turn into what Julius turned into last year. So we don't have a long track record with this. So yes, I am absolutely concerned. It's all that being said, I'm not going to pull the plug on this after 13 games. I do think, however, and I will say this very strongly. Take a sip of beer before I say this. I loved what I saw in the first quarter when they ran the offense through Kemba Walker. Because the way the NBA is designed today, there's a reason that nobody runs their offense through a center other than Denver and occasionally Philly. And one of them has the best passing center of all time, and the other one has a guy who might be the most unstoppable one-on-one force, in the league right now, at least in the post. Fucking Karl Anthony Towns is taking like a dozen shots a game in Minnesota, whereas Anthony Edwards is going crazy. It's just easier to run your offense through a guard. Now, what is Kemba at this point? I don't know. But I liked what I saw in the first quarter, and I'd love to see Julius try to be a finisher again a lot of the time, and then occasionally, go back to ISO Julius when the situation calls for it. I just don't know. I don't know what that looks like. I don't know if he can go back to that role. Is he willing to go back to that role? And that's where it gets into like, how strong is your culture? What kind of a leader are you really? Are you really willing to do what's best for the team? And that's where I think the toughest conversation comes, because for Julius Randle, if he really does think he's one of the best players in the NBA, like, how does he have that conversation with himself? He's convinced that the best way to rescue the Knicks right now is on his shoulders. He is convinced of that. It doesn't make him a bad person or a bad player or a bad anything. It just means he's a basketball player. He's confident. And you know what? He might still be right. And we may all look back at this opening part of the season and laugh, but there's absolutely validity to turning the offense over to somebody else. So, we'll see. Forgotten NYC. My Knicks fan PTSD is acting up again. Lost 5 of 7. That's very fair. We're all of it. It's all of us. It's all of us. It's the same for me. I referenced it a few times. I'll reference it again. Before the season, all I could think of, 2013-14. It's all I could think of was that year, and how I was so excited going into that year, Bargs and all. And they started 3-9, and I figured once we started off 5-1, I'm like, okay, we're good. And I don't know. What I will say is I do think the character of this team is real. I don't think this team is going to win 30 games this year, but there's a reason that I made my win prediction. What it was. Hush Sue, what's going on, Hush? Thank you so much for the very generous contribution. Appreciate you. Starters are starting to worry me. RJ might be one of the worst off-ball defenders. Good on-ball, though. He wasn't great on-ball tonight because he got beat at least once that I can remember. But generally, you're 100% right. Bench is a godsend, yes. First time this season I've been utterly disgusted with Randall and Barrett. 76-6 it is. I'm not utterly disgusted with anyone. I don't think I could be utterly disgusted with anybody on this team, because I watched too many years of guys who just didn't give a shit and didn't try at all and just wanted to get their numbers. Like that's like if you're a Knicks fan and you're really feeling the PTSD and you're really like, holy shit, this is terrible. Think back to some of those years where just nobody gave any semblance of a shit about winning basketball games. Like zero. I'm not talking 1 or 2 years. That was like 13 or 14 out of the last 20 years where just nobody cared about winning games or doing the things necessary to win games. I think this team does care about doing the things necessary to win games. And I do think they want to do the things necessary to win games. I just think they need to figure out what those things are. And for Julius, I think he does need to, reconcile with whether what he thinks is the best way to win games may not be the best way. And that's tough. Greg Film Stuff. What's going on, Greg? Thank you again. Not sure why Tibbs went to Randall and RJ late. Again, I said what I said about RJ. Randall, I just again, I don't know. I'm more forgiving than most. They were struggling, and I feel like when they entered the fourth, New York's energy left with Obi. I think this is just a rough patch early in the season, though. I hope you're right with that last comment, and I think you nailed something. I'm pushing back on a lot of people who are like, bench Julius, start Obi, or Obi has to play 20 whatever minutes a game, because I keep obviously saying these same things about Julius, which I'm sure everybody's getting sick of hearing. But it is unmistakable how the energy level when Obi is in the game and when he's not, and let's just say it like it is, when Julius is in the game, it's unmistakable. And the thing that's frustrating about that is we all remember there were times last season where Julius, the energy was on fire with Julius in the game. And there have been moments this year where the energy was high with Julius, but lately, and this probably goes to your last point that maybe it's just a rough patch. Lately, it is night and day. When Obi goes out of the game, it's like he brings so much. And I think Tibbs intellectually knows, well, Obi Toppin's not as good a basketball player as Julius Randle, and he's not. He's not as good a basketball player as Julius Randle. I mean, Julius Randle's struggling right now. He's still a better basketball player than Obi Toppin, but sometimes that's not the be-all, end-all. And right now for the Knicks, it's not the be-all, end-all. And that's incredibly frustrating. Kevin Danishevsky, what's going on, Kev? How are you? Please don't go off on me, but the rotation decisions tonight, normally a Tibbs defender, made me want to throw my chair. I'm going to happily eat my words on Burks, however, was awesome. Should not have come out. I mean, I'm assuming you're critical of how long he left the starters in the third. Already said that's a very fair point. And in terms of when he brought the guys back in late, it was the wrong move because they lost. But I'm not going to sit here and say that I wanted to throw my chair at the time. I didn't want to throw my chair at the time. Like I said, the only one that really was like made me iffy was bringing back RJ because I didn't think RJ was bringing anything to the game. And by the way, just so we're clear, I feel like I need to actually say this. We've seen Julius Randle have bad games and come and make a big shot late. At the same time, he doesn't feel like he's in a place right now where that's possible. Although he did it in Philly, but that was a very different type of game. He was trying to call his number a lot throughout the Philly game, and then the shots just started falling. So it's a fair comment. Dom Cappuccini, what's going on, Dom? How are you? I am sorry, but since the first two, Evan doesn't appear to be a winning player. He looks like an Orlando Magic player. That's mean. Love RJ, but shouldn't have been in the fourth. Yeah, I agree with that last comment. As far as Evan, look, I don't want to go back on being happy about the signing because I do still think it was a good signing. I don't know. We haven't really seen a lot of Evan Fournier since very early on in his career as the fourth option on a team. He was the first perimeter option in Orlando for a lot of years until the trade to Boston, and then we got like a 20-game sample size in Boston, and I'm not really sure what to make of that. I don't know. I think he's just another guy that's still getting adjusted. I don't know if it's not that he's not a winning player. It's tough because look, I've never, as anybody who remembers my reaction to them not trading for him at the deadline last year. You guys know I've never been a huge Fournier guy, but I thought he would bring the team exactly what they needed, and like in some ways he has. He puts the ball on the floor, he can make a shot. Although he's not making a whole lot of shots right now. But yeah, I mean that's a fair comment. It's a really fair comment. Jeremy Chase, tough loss. But can I get a cheers for Rose's running baby hook? Oh, I loved it. Derrick Rose, man. I kind of said it very quickly before. We were having, I think, a text conversation about it earlier in the week about Derrick Rose's Hall of Fame chances. And, like, it's the Basketball Hall of Fame, so, you know, everybody gets in. But, like, I think with this second act of his career, third act of his career, whatever the hell it is, I think if there were anybody who doubted whether he should get in, he should get in. He's a Hall of Famer. He's the best player on the team right now. He's arguably the most important player on the team right now. His attitude, I mean, not even the baby hook. When they stole the ball, I don't know what he did. Someone stole the ball from him, and it was a fast break. And that fucking dude sprinted like he was trying to make the JV team in high school. And he made a defensive play, and he prevented the Hornets from scoring. And this guy has an MVP. He's made, you know, over whatever, $200 million at this point in his career. Just an utter professional, class act. I said some really mean shit about him, probably privately and publicly, when he was here the first time. I wish I could take it all back. He is everything you want in a player that you get to root for. So shout out to Derrick Rose. Also, why can't Obi and Julius play together when Charlotte has no big? Yeah, that was, I mean, I haven't said it explicitly, but that was what I was wondering. Instead of bringing RJ in, leave Obi in, bring Julius in, and then Burks quickly and, you know, Kemba or Rose. Obviously, again, it probably would have been the better move to leave Rose in there. But what can you do? Okay. Tyler Michaels. Like CT Pittman, I was also at the game. Good stuff, Tyler. Randall looks like he lost his confidence. I think probably. Is Rose hurt? Maybe I missed it. Game swung as soon as he left. We haven't heard anything that he's hurt. I don't think he is. I just think Tibbs was like, I'm going to give Kemba the chance to finish the storybook. And he did not do that. This is really frustrating loss. Still 7-6 somehow. This team feels like it's about 4-9. And they're still 7-6. I don't know what to make of that. I mean, they're an average team. Everything about them screams average. But, you know, yeah, I don't know. Forgotten NYC. Is that Mountain Dew in a beer mug you're sipping on? No, this is I don't want to get up because Andrew will yell at me, but I'll get the can later. It's just some beer my neighbor brought over last week. Pretty good. I don't even know what it is, but it's good. Goes down easy. Much like the Knicks starters. Oh, it's the little things in life. Brian Benjamin. Rose got injured. He had to sub Kemba in. Oh, okay. Well, this is news to me. I did not see it. But if that's the case, then that's not great. But it does make you feel a little bit better about the decision. Okay. What else we got here? I feel like the super chat, the chat made me miss a few super chats. If that's you, just do me a favor and like send Andrew a message right now, and I'll get to it. Hang on. Sorry, I gotta stop with my monologues in the beginning, making them so long. Dom Cappuccini back for more. Next week is super critical. If we struggle at 2-2 or worse, we might be in for a rude awakening. Well, next week is here we go. turned an ankle on the play before Kemba came in. Nothing reported yet, but I noticed it too. I didn't notice it. I was probably burying my head in my hands at the starters coming back in. Jeremy, I'm going to read your comment in a bit. So next week, let's talk about next week. Next week, the Knicks play. They start off with Indiana. It's 3 home games. Indiana, home. Orlando, home for our outing. And then Houston, home. Then at Chicago on Sunday. And then Lakers, home. Phoenix, home. Here's what I'm focused on. I'm focused on going home and beating Indiana and then beating a shitty Orlando team and then beating a shitty Houston team. And if you get to 10, my barometer, my low bar was always the first 16 games of the season, 10-6. And I said, and I have the text messages to prove this, if they go below 10-6 in the first 16 games of the season, this team will be a 500 team, give or take a few games. 44, 45, 43. I said, if they win 11 or 12, they go 12-4, I'm like, I'm wrong about this team. They have a chance at 50. Even if they won 11, I would have been like, okay, they got something going on here. I said, if they go 10-6, that's the minimum. 9-7, I mean, and shit, we shouldn't even guarantee that. I mean, they're right now, I don't even know if they should be favored against Indiana. So yeah, those 3. Let's worry about those 3 games and then go from there. Forgotten NYC. I cried in Kevin Knox when Bridges was going on. Oh, God, that fucking draft pick. Miles Bridges is going to make an all-star team. Mikal Bridges may not make an all-star team, but he might be better than Bridges in the long. Mikal might be better than Miles on the long run. I don't know. Well, Miles is going to make an all-star team. Make an all-star team this year. Shit. And then, Shea. We love Shea. Michael Porter Jr. maybe missed a bullet there. He hasn't so much lived up to that max contract. Okay. Robert Cross. John, do you think if we inserted Grimes in the starting lineup for 48 that it would fix anything? No, it would fix everything. No, I do not. We're not there yet. We're not there yet. Just pay the man $72 million. Thank you for your comment, though. Chicken cutlets for everybody. Aussie Knicks fan. Tough loss. Agreed. Lots of passion turning into frustration from France tonight. I mean, that's New York, though. It's what we do. And fair enough. Obi and IQ are here, and we love it. Salute to you and KFS. Thank you so much for the kind words. I don't know that I'm deserving or we are deserving of them, but we appreciate them nonetheless. Here's what I will say as a positive. If we're really going glass half full, this regime has had 2 drafts, and the 2 guys that they took in their first draft look like guys who we are going to love rooting for the next 10 years. They look awesome. Obi Toppin, I don't know if he's going to be better long-term than Tyrese Halliburton. I don't know even if he's going to be better long-term than Devin Vassell. I don't know the answers to these questions. What I do know is that dude's a fucking player, and he's an impact player. And Emmanuel Quickley, man, oh boy. He's my new Frank. Except he can make a shot. I love me some Emmanuel Quickley. He is just the fucking cojones on that guy. Play for my team any day. He will be the guy that I will be like, there'll be some superstar trade and his name will get mentioned and I'll be like, I don't know. Anyway, Hush Zoo. One more thing. Evan taking less than 8 shots a game is a concern too. Thank you so much. Much more concerned right now with the fact that Fournier, to use a term from Schwinny Poo, who has been using this term to describe Kemba of late, not tonight obviously, but a passenger. Fournier has been a passenger in this offense. Jew's looking to get his shots. Kemba looking to get his shots now. RJ looking at his shot. Fournier, I'm not saying he should look to get his shots, but like you got paid to come here to make an impact. And he's not making an impact right now. He's not. And if you're getting paid $17 million a year, you have to make an impact. He's not making an impact. I love how he was firing away with such confidence early in the year. And I don't know where that went. And I want it back. I don't care if he has an occasional 3 for 12 game or 4 for 15 or whatever it is. Just fire away. That's why you're here. He's passing up shots that are just odd. It's odd to watch. Yeah, 100%. Brain XTC. The Knicks are what they are. A 41-45 win team. You might not be wrong. They're probably a 7 or an 8 seed. You know, again, in this Eastern Conference, I'm afraid to look up the fucking standings right now. Should I do it? Let's do this live on the air. Standings right now. Your New York Knickerbockers at the moment are 8th. Tied for 7th with the Raptors, who they lost to. A half a game up on the Hornets, who they just lost to, and the Celtics, who they beat. And they are 1 game up on the world champion Milwaukee Bucks. And then you got the Pacers and the Hawks. Something tells me the Bucks are going to be better. The Celtics, I picked them as the 4 seed this year. The Hornets, we'll see. The Raptors, we'll see. The Heat, now 7-5 all of a sudden. When did the fuck did that happen? I think they're going to be fine. Cleveland, again, we'll see. Washington, maybe disrespectful, but at 8-3, we'll see. I look, if I was a betting man right now and you gave me, I had to pick a range, and you gave me 41-45 or 46-49, I'd take 41-45 right now. And everybody please feel free to throw that back in my face if they win 46 or more games. I will be the happiest person on earth to have that thrown back in my face. Let me finish reading this comment. That's not bad for a team without a top 10 player. This is a process. Yeah. I mean, last season, we talked about this. We even talked about this as it was happening last year. You know, last season kind of got us spoiled. It was such a special year. But at the same time, I know the organization wants to build on that. The organization had no intention of taking a step back. If they had an intention on taking a step back, they wouldn't have signed Kemba Walker and Evan Fournier. They wanted to, at the very least, maintain and hopefully take a step forward. And they have not done that as of right now. Hoon Song, what's going on? I haven't seen you in a while. Hoon. Hope everything's well. Knicks aren't winning games. They should, but have shown sparks. Yes, they have. Unlike the Hawks, we got new pieces to fit and still above 500. But next week is important. Another week till we trade everyone for Dame. Haha. Don't laugh at your own risk. Yeah, I mean, I don't really want to compare ourselves to any other team because you could just as easily look at Washington. Washington got a lot of new pieces. Now, granted, they traded a guy who, in my opinion, is one of the more detrimental players in the entire NBA, Russell Westbrook, for 3 guys or whatever it was. Well, 4 guys, really, because Dinwiddie, who are just functional, good basketball players that know how to play team ball. They've been great, and Beal hasn't even been that good. So, I mean, their scoring margin is solid. Bulls have a lot of new pieces. Bulls look pretty good. I'd love to give the Knicks a pass. But they're just not playing very well right now. I do think this has something to do with the new pieces for sure, but you know when a team's not playing well, they're obviously not playing well. The starters they're not good right now. They're not like bottom of the league bad, but they're not like, I'll say this. This does not remind me of like 2016-17, the first Derrick Rose year, when they started off 17-14, 17-13, something like that, and then it all fell apart. Like that kind of, when they were winning games, that felt like fool's gold, and then it all came apart. When this team, to me, they're the success and the good moments they've shown have not felt like fool's gold to me, but it does but there's clearly something missing. And it's unclear if whatever's missing, if they're definitely going to figure it out. But I, I remain hopeful. I'll say that. Okay. Yeah, good comment from Andrew Claudio. Shout out to Andrew. The new pieces argument would be much more fair if it wasn't RJ and Randall that have been the most worrisome lately. Yeah. But you know what? I'm gonna push back on my producer. I think the comment about Fournier a few super chats ago about him being passive, to me, that's almost as worrisome as anything RJ and Randall have done. And Kemba had a great night tonight. The previous 4 games, he shot, 22% from the field or whatever it was and scored, 19 points total. It's all worrisome. It's all worrisome with the starters right now. To say nothing of Mitch, who still doesn't look quite right. So, yeah. I think that's all I got. Thanks everybody for checking it out, and I hope everybody enjoyed themselves. Another frustrating evening, but again, we had a lot of frustrating evenings at the beginning of last season, and came out all right. I am not convinced that we cannot do the same thing this year, even though it doesn't feel like it right now. This team is more talented. They just have to figure out how to play basketball together, and they haven't done that yet. But no time like the next game to get it started. So we'll see what happens with that. As a reminder, no live stream next Wednesday because that's our KFS outing, but we will have a live stream on Monday after the game. And we will see you for, of course, a podcast, our usual Monday midnight drop. In the meantime, everybody have a great weekend, and shout out to everybody. Take care.